you get 50,000 likes on every post that you put up. It's like, who are those 50,000 people? Imagine if you were in a room with 100,000 people and you said something out loud and 50,000 of them started cheering. Like, what would that actually mean to you? If I break that down into my life, what do I really care about 50,000 people agreeing or liking what I said versus the content of who I am? And I see those people raising their hand and kind of cheering out loud, but I don't know who they are. I don't recognize their face. I don't have any context for their life, but that opinion, that little heart sign that they have the power to click on or not click on has so much weight to it. So
we crave acceptance because we crave safety, and acceptance equals safety. I think, there's probably more to it than that, but if the tribe says, cool, we love you, you're in, it's like a deeply gratifying sensation because it feels, you're a made man. Like when you have this sensation, like, cool, like they all love me, like I'm supported. Versus the opposite being like, you're out of the tribe, like we don't trust you. We don't value your opinion. You're cut from the tribe. That's the opposite. You're like, oh, I'm going to die. Right. So I think most of these are preying on all the same inner, ancestral patterns that we've had for millennia, you could say, depending upon your belief system. And
are you familiar with Dunbar's number?
Yeah, 150.
Right. So I guess that's what I'm wondering is, when did that number become 150,000 instead of 150 people? When did we make that shift, you think?
Well, it hasn't. There's no 150,000. It's still 150. If 150 is being able to actually manage. So the original Dunbar number comes from, I think primates. What is it called when they're picking on each other? They're taking bugs and whatnot off. What is it called?
Oh yeah, grooming
each other. Yeah. It's like being able to actually track and groom and like take care of each other. And like the Dunbar 150 for humans is like, once you have a business beyond, or a community or whatever beyond that 150, they have to become numbers. Like the people, it's just, there's no way to track like the personalities and like have meaningful connections. They're just parts of the system, and so I think that's nothing's changed about that, whether it's, 150 or a little less than that or a little more than that or whatever. But generally speaking, you only have so much bandwidth for so many people. And so it's the people on the internet liking, they're not going to be there for you. They like that you're confirming their bias, or you made them feel a little better that day or something like that. But if you needed to like somebody to pick you up from the airport at 1 a.m. or something like that, like none of those people are going to be there for you.
Well, I think that's the misperception. And correct me tell me what you think, but people are even throwing around the words like tribe, community. I've seen some people with, large social media followings comment on this and say, I'm so glad that my tribe is there for me. You guys are always there. And it's like, there's some sort of mismatch in what that actually represents or what you're actually getting from those folks.
No, I think you can have, depending upon how you show up for your group of, say you have a group of like 1,000 True Fans is like a popular blog. Have you ever heard of that before? 1,000 True Fans? Yeah. And so if you have your tribal members in your online program or subscription thing or, Facebook group, whatever it is, and you show up in a way that really makes them like feel valued, and you have it organized that they're creating accountability amongst each other, and it's really like changing their lives. I think there is a reciprocity that's going to come through with those people. I think that you can go well beyond the Dunbar's 150 number in the sense of like actually having a meaningful, valuable tribe. And I was just thinking with like, really, it might be kind of weird, but the reality with the airport conversation in your tribe of, your 1,000 people are probably actually, most of them would be really excited to pick you up from the airport. Now that I think about it, imagine if like Joe Rogan called anybody and was like, dude, I need a ride from the airport. Everybody would be like, yep, gotcha. Sure. So I think there is more value to it than maybe we're giving credit. And you can create a substantial size following. And it really, I think, just depends on how that does really want to like be your tribe and show up for you, and like, you know, wants to, you know, they're like, you know, Conor McGregor says, I don't have fans, I have soldiers, you know. And I think that that's the way that your fans are, or your, you know, the people that surround you or whatever is in large part just a reflection of the way that you are. And there's a possibility where all of a sudden you have soldiers. It's like, well, you might have created a cult, you know, and now you might have a problem in the other direction. Well, now they're too committed. But I think that we can, in the sense of people that really do want to show up for you and be supportive to you, I think we can really like blow the 150 number out of the water. It's more like actual in-person, you know, interpersonal relationships.
So without taking us off topic too much, have you seen that documentary that's on Netflix right now about Osho, Wild Wild Country? Have you seen that? Yeah. I lived in Oregon for a couple of years. So I was like, that was nearby there. Okay. Yeah. So you said cult, and it started making me think about that. But you know, not to take us too far off topic, as far as just how this is relevant to everyone out there who doesn't have thousands of social media followers, but a way to think about community and creating community around yourself with people who will show up for you and people who you will show up for. I think that's something that a lot of us have lost, especially in this past year. If we had even a shred of that, it was taken away in the inability to show up for each other in certain ways. So how do you think that pertains to someone who is still looking to create that intimate circle?
Well, even if you have 1 million, I mean, I have a lot of friends that have like well over a million, the sacred number, 1 million, you know, IG followers or YouTube or whatever. None of them are any happier or anything like at all. Like that's, I mean, and that's like old hat. Like everyone for the most part knows that the happiest, once you reach a certain number of, I think, followers or money or anything like that, just enough to feel safe. That's the big thing. You need enough of everything to feel safe. And your bar of what makes you safe is going to be different. You might have an infinite bar of safety that doesn't really actually exist, you know, and so you need to like address the framework, the infrastructure of your safety bar. You know, but if you make like 100,000 a year or something like that, like you're good, like you feel good at 100,000, depending upon inflation and where you're at in the world and all that stuff. But say you're in LA, if you make $100,000, you're like, you probably feel good. Like you're good. You know, you need to have enough for if your laptop breaks or your car breaks, it's not a big deal. Like that, I think it really does inform one's level of happiness, is not being worried about money. I think it's a huge deal. So paying attention to finances and, you know, also your what would you call it? Like your social portfolio, maybe you could say, I think is really valuable, you know? And so really paying attention with how you show up in your immediate relationships. You know, are you a person that really has expressed to the people around you that like you got them? Because if you got them, then they might not all get you, but you're sending the frequency out of like, okay, I got you back. Like the law of reciprocity is very real. And so when you start to live in that way, and I think ultimately, if you live in that way as well, it's like it reinforms the way that you show up for yourself. You know, so the way that you treat others is kind of like the way that you treat yourself. Not always, you know, there's no like absolutes with any of that stuff. But for someone that doesn't have 100,000 Instagram followers or something, and a lot of people that have 100,000 Instagram followers, you have to look at the engagement, because a lot of times it's just fake, you know? And so like you said, like just because you have 100,000 Instagram followers, it doesn't really mean anything. Right. You know, as far as the actual impact of being able to sell stuff and create influence. Anyway, that's a separate topic though. But I think it's really just showing up for people in a meaningful way in the moment, and making that your practice. If you do that with consistency, then that grows, you know, and that's it. Like everything can come back to you know, the myopic level and say like, cool, like how do I show up when I'm at the grocery store? You know, when I'm like with the barista and I'm cashing out or paying for my espresso or whatever, like how was that relationship? I make eye contact, like, you know, did I let out a good exhalation and like breathe and feel comfortable in my body? You know, did she smile? Did he smile? Did we have like a moment? You know, just getting in the practice the way you show up for everyone individual level, I think from there that, it expands out to having people in your life that care about you. And then the next is jumping on to other people's larger circles, and being active. Like, you need to be, especially when you don't live in a 150 person tribe, where like you're a part of the tribe inherently because we need you for us to survive. And if you can't be a part of the tribe, you kind of have to go, and so it's like, we don't have that so overtly in Western, nuclear family culture, where you can just order everything on Amazon and you don't need to have any real skills, like survival skills. Survival skills essentially could be, whatever, selling fake shit on eBay or something. That could be your survival skill. They're like, it's working, to be able to get you the goods and shelter and all that stuff. So I think being proactive about entering into social situations, go to yoga classes, go to dance classes, go to, whatever it doesn't mean yoga, you go to, I don't know, chess conferences, like whatever your thing is, like you need to be proactive, because at some point there's going to come a time where you need people, and you might feel like you don't need people now. You're probably going to need people in the next 1 to 20 years.
Right. And the thing is that you don't want to wait until you need people to start trying to create
making those investments. And that's the thing, is financial. And if you do invest in people, you're going to typically become wealthy. But you ought not focus too much on financial gain. Pay attention to it. Don't be completely blind to numbers, because it is a thing that's a part of Western culture, is like, you pay attention. But have the focus be, how are you supporting people? Because if you have a thing that makes people's lives better, money comes, and then from there, figure out business and figure out, all the other things. But first you need a thing that makes people's lives better, and that from there, then it's like that. Well, then it sells itself. That, I know that's kind of I guess we're going down a different pathway, but yeah, that's enough.
Well, no, I appreciate that you're bringing that in, because that's very core to my belief system, and I was cool to have this conversation with you, because I see a lot of parallels, also coming from, to me, very obviously like different areas of life and the way that we're doing our lives. And so I think it's cool to see the synchronicities and the parallels in the way we view things, because to me, I think that's the most important investment anyone can make. I do think it's important to obviously look at the financials, look at numbers, but I mean, if this past year has taught us anything, it's how much do we value relationships? How much does it really matter when things do start to fall apart, when you do start losing loved ones and having tragic things happen? Who do you count on if you haven't been prioritizing that? So